Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Rip's final scene with John Dutton IV was the perfect Yellowstone send-off for Kevin Costner. Rip's Cole Hauser final scene with John Dutton IV was the perfect send-off to Kevin Costner and his Yellowstone character, despite the controversy over the actor and character's exit. John was last seen alive in Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 8, A Knife and No Coin, the season finale of Part 1. The final Yellowstone season was split into two parts, adding to the conflict over Season 5 and the time it took to complete the show's fifth and potentially final outing. Costner's absence as the central Dutton clan member was at the heart of the controversy, significantly affecting Part 2. John Dutton was missing from Season 5, Part 2 after Costner and Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan failed to reach a working agreement. Therefore, John Dutton i.e. dies in Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2's premiere to make everything click in the show's final season. While some found the character's exit a heinous act against both John Dutton and Costner, Part 2 also features a lovely tribute to Dutton in the Yellowstone series finale. The moment somewhat redeemed some of the shortcomings of Costner's original send-off in the show, as difficult as that was. The last time that Costner and Hauser were on screen together as John and Rip is technically in A Knife and No Coin, when the ranch foreman prepares to journey south to Texas with the herd and half the Yellowstone ranch cowboys. John and Rip square up a few details. Then, Dutton apologizes to his foreman for the inconvenience, which causes Rip to go away from Beth, Kelly Riley. Rip says, "Sir, it is what it is." Then, John bids farewell, reminding the foreman of what's commonly said about being a cowboy, remarking, "If it was easy, everyone would do it." While Costner and Hauser's final scene is a proper cowboy farewell, it isn't Rip's last exchange with John Dutton. In the finale, Rip's final scene with John Dutton is when he buries the rancher after his funeral. Rip digs the hole for John's grave before the ritual, rounding up a few cowboys to help him complete the job. Wheeler also sticks around after John's ceremony to put dirt over the casket, staying behind after everyone has left to send John off properly. Rip is the last to send John off in the finale, which is fitting. First and foremost, Rip buries John Dutton in Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 14, because he is the ranch's foreman. Rip has handled or delegated the bulk of the ranch's manual labor for decades, so digging holes on the property is a job that already fits Rip's job description. Rip delegates the task partly to the other cowboys, who help him make funeral preparations. However, there are more profound reasons why Rip assigns himself the task of finishing the job. Rip burying John honors their connection and ties into the 1883 spinoff. 1883 is the Yellowstone prequel that follows the earliest members of the Dutton family tree as they travel the Oregon Trail from Texas to Montana. In 1883, the characters face a harrowing journey that causes deaths in nearly every episode, with members of their wagon train dying of disturbances or disease. Being pioneers on a wagon train with no infrastructure, when someone dies in the prequel, their loved ones have to dig the hole and lower them into the ground personally. Rip's gesture honors the first Dutton family members. However, the gesture also cements John and Rip's father and son connection. Rip burying John is the perfect touch and arguably the best send-off to the leader, because John saw his ranch foreman as a son and eventually treated him like one. Rip putting the final dirt on John's coffin honors the connection between the cowboys. Moreover, Rip's Yellowstone Season 5 final gesture continues a trend revealed in one of the early seasons. Rip plays a significant role in the final arrangements of his family, and what he says to Beth in a different scene adds even more significance to this gesture. In Yellowstone Season 2, Episode 7, Resurrection Day, Beth has Rip meet her on the roof of the family's lodge, where she drinks whiskey and stares at the stars. When Rip comes out on the roof, The future couple squares up their thoughts on God and life, with John's daughter conjuring one of Beth's best quotes from Yellowstone. When Beth asks Rip to take her on a date, she tells him Lord knows he can afford it because he's been wearing the same 3 pairs of jeans and jacket for a decade, but Rip's money went to burial arrangements. When she presses the foreman on what he spent all his money on, Rip tells Beth that he spent $20,000 on his mom's headstone and $30,000 on his brother's. Additionally, Rip tells Beth that he spent $5,000 on a gravedigger in Forsyth, Montana, to exhume his father's bones, which he threw out the window on the way home, dishonoring the physical remains of the man who murdered his family. Rip's comments show that he feels a strong sense of responsibility for his family's final resting places, which extends to John, whom he views as a father. John Dutton didn't need Rip's financial assistance for his tombstone, and Rip's treatment of the rancher was far from the desecration of his father's physical remnants. Still, it shows how important it is for Rip to be involved in the arrangements. He would probably personally bury Beth too, if anything happened to his wife, although hopefully we don't see that in the Beth and Rip Yellowstone spinoff. Rip's interaction with the preacher is humorous, yet his insistence on lowering John into the ground shows Rip's sincerity, as does his use of this symbolic shovel to lay all the earth on John's grave. In some ways, John's funeral is a big setup for Beth's final revenge on Jamie, established when she whispers into John Dutton's coffin that she plans to avenge his death. Still, it includes parting words from Case, Luke Grimes, Linnell, Wendy Moniz, and Thomas Rainwater, Jill Birmingham, with all the Dutton Ranch cowboys laying down a flower. Therefore, John's funeral was the most necessary element of Kevin Costner's Yellowstone Season 5 sendoff. Still, Rip's treatment added the perfect touch, with the foreman's silence as he diligently began to work, saying all that needed to be said. The Montana sky stretched out like a canvas of fire, the setting sun casting long, golden rays over the Dutton Ranch. The land, vast and untamed, had seen more blood, love, and loss than most could comprehend, and tonight it was about to witness a moment that would be remembered for generations, a final farewell between 2 men bound by a lifetime of loyalty and sacrifice. John Dutton, i.e., sat astride his horse, his weathered face unreadable as he gazed across the open fields. Rip Wheeler, his most trusted confidant and the closest thing he had to a son, rode beside him. They hadn't spoken much during the ride up to this ridge, but words had never been necessary between them. Their bond had been forged in hardship, in blood spilled and lives taken to protect this ranch. Rip glanced at John, the elder man's silhouette strong against the dying light. "You sure about this?" he finally asked, his voice rough with emotion. John exhaled deeply, surveying the land he had fought so hard to keep. "Never been more sure of anything in my life, son." Rip swallowed hard at the word, son. John had never needed to say it outright before, but now, on this night, it carried more weight than anything he had ever heard. He nodded once, tipping his hat slightly as if acknowledging a silent truth between them. A gust of wind rolled over the ridge, whispering secrets through the grass. John took a deep breath, letting the crisp air fill his lungs. "You know what to do when I'm gone, Rip. You've always known." Rip clenched his jaw. "Ain't ready to say goodbye yet, sir." John turned in his saddle, meeting Rip's eyes for what felt like the first time in a long while. "Neither am I," he admitted. "But this land, this ranch, it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to you, to Beth, to Case and Tate. It belongs to whoever is willing to fight for it. And I don't have any more fight left in me." A long silence stretched between them. The weight of John's words pressed heavily on Rip's chest. He had spent his life following this man, learning from him, fighting for him. And now he was being asked to carry on without him. "I ain't never known a day without you telling me what to do," Rip said quietly. "Not sure I know how." John gave a small, weary smile. "Then I did my job right." For a moment, Rip thought about fighting it. Thought about telling John that he could still stay, that they could find a way through whatever had broken him. But deep down, he knew this wasn't about the land anymore. It was about John Dutton making peace with his own ghosts. The distant rumble of cattle carried across the land. The sun was slipping lower now, the horizon painted in hues of deep crimson and burnt orange. John took off his hat, running a hand through his graying hair. "You remember the first time I took you up here?" he asked. Rip nodded. "I was just a kid. You told me that this land would test me, that it would break me if I let it." John's smile was faint but genuine. "And did it?" Rip thought about all the battles, the losses, the nights spent with Beth under the endless Montana sky, and the days spent fighting for a dream that wasn't even his to begin with. "It damn near did, but I ain't broken yet."